Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Toilets to Titles NFL show. Here with me, your guy, Joe Knows. We are here to recap the final regular season week of the 2022 NFL season. It was a wild one, which leads into the wild card games, which we're going to cover too. So it was a great, excellent final week of the season here, wrapping things up. So many teams that were relevant up until the very end. So many games that were relevant that had playoff implications this week. It really was a lot of fun. It couldn't get better than what we just saw in Week 18 to wrap up the season. That is so much fun. So many darn good games. So many good implications, and we're heading to the wild card. Everyone, it's coming. We're finally here. For me, it feels like it's been a really long season, but the playoffs are upon us. But we do have to recap the Week 18 games. So much fun there, so much good news to talk about. But before we do so, let me get the bells and whistles out of the way. Friendly reminder, please hit that like and subscribe button. Give us that five-star Apple review. All of that really helps us grow the program. We really appreciate it. If you could take, a flash of a second just to hit that like button, and then a flash of a second just to hit that subscribe button. And if you got 30 seconds to write up a five-star Apple review, we greatly appreciate it. It all helps us grow our brand. And where you can find the show, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. And toiletstotitles.com. We've got like 14, like 15 guys here, including myself at Toilets to Titles, that produce videos and articles. Everything we produce, whatever format we originally air it or show it, it all winds up on our website eventually or very quickly. It all winds up there. We cover NFL football, NCAA football, fantasy football. That's really our real bread and butter, our wheelhouse fantasy football, that is, and fantasy advice, and also uh, NFL draft content. So basically, anything to do with football, we cover it, and it all winds up on our website, toiletstotitles.com. Check it out. Love it. There's always something new up on the website. And if you can go to patreon.com/toiletstotitles, you can learn how you can further support the show. And I want to give a hearty thank you to our current Patreon supporters. We really appreciate your extra support. We appreciate you appreciating us. Thank you so much, and it's a great feeling to know that people like you are out there. And again, just we really appreciate the additional support that you give us. Anyway, guys, let's dive into the content here. All right, so we led off with the 14-3 Chiefs defeating the now 6-11 Raiders 31-13. I'm not going to spend too much time in this game. The result of this game was pretty much written in stone. The Chiefs did play their starters because they had the number one seed in the AFC up for grabs. So if they got this win, they were going to get the number one seed in the AFC, and they did. They played their starters, pretty much romped on the Raiders. Just a bad season for the Raiders. The Raiders season should have been so much better than this. And if they hadn't made the playoffs, they at least should have been the playoff contention up until like the last week. But it's not how it turned out. We'll see. It looks like the Carr era is over in Vegas. It looks like Devontae Adams is probably going to be traded. I'm not so sure about that, but there's a lot of buzz about that going around. So there's a lot of changes coming. The Josh McDaniel era has started off horribly in Vegas, and I feel like the wrong guy, Derek Carr, is getting blamed for it. Listen, I'm not saying they should fire McDaniels yet. It's only been 1 year. I don't like the guy. I don't think he should have been hired as head coach, but you did. You got to give him at least a second year. But I think it's crazy that they'd be moving on from Carr, and I realize that like the heavier part of his contract is about to kick in if they don't make a move now. I guess I'm wondering if you can renegotiate with the guy and get him to take some sort of cut. He's a good quarterback, a very good quarterback, and he loves being a Raider. I'm sure he'd want to be a Raider for life instead of going somewhere else. But I don't know. We'll see what the Raiders do at the quarterback position if indeed they're moving on from Carr. But that's what it looks like, man. But not much to say about the Chiefs. They are the number one seed in the AFC. They've been up there with the Bills the entire year. They're battling for that number one position. They got it Week 18. So they will have home field advantage throughout the entire AFC playoffs. But it was a good tune-up for the Chiefs. Kadarius Toney, who they traded for this year, had a good game. He didn't put up a massive amount of yards or anything, but I think he put up like 35, 40 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. So good game for him. Everyone contributed a little bit in this game for the Chiefs. So good showing by them. Good tune up for them before they rest this week, leading up to the divisional round of the playoffs. Okay, let's move on to this. Was a great game, man. You saw some possible changings of the guard here in the NFL, where, for example, all right, the now 9-8 Jaguars defeated the 7-10 Titans 20-16. Whoever won this game won the AFC Southern Division, AFC South Division, and was going to the playoffs. Whoever lost was going out. So the implications are obvious. This was win and in. If you lose, you're out. That's all. And you kind of saw a changing of the guard here. The Titans, they lost 20-16. The Titans were very banged up the entire year. They didn't even have Ryan Tannehill for like the past month. So, if they weren't as injured, they could have won this division. The Titans weren't the Titans this entire year anyway, starting game one against my New York Giants, where they lost that game. Where on paper, at least in the beginning of the season, both of those teams, Giants and Titans, trended in a different direction. But the Titans got off to a bad start this season anyway, and they did find their footing in the middle of the season. They were like 7-3 at some point, and they just basically lost out the rest of the year. But like I said, they did have AJ Brown, their rookie wide receiver, who still does show a lot of potential. And Traylon Burks was injured most of the year. Second half of the year, when Burks played, he was looking okay, and he was looking pretty decent. So, but his thing is that he couldn't stay on the field, and just Tannehill and Derrick Henry were almost enough. Then Tannehill goes down with the injury for like at least the past month, and that was good night, Irene, for the Tennessee Titans. For the Jaguars, this team fought the entire year. They were like 2-6 at some point. Here they are winding up 9-8. They got, as the season went along, that young, talented team, just like the Detroit Lions, just got better and better and better and better. Here they are in the playoffs to show it, behind second year quarterback and Trevor Lawrence, behind their new head coach. The team is really, this wasn't a fluke season for the Jaguars. Nothing was a fluke. They had, even when they were like 2-6, a lot of them, like pretty much all of their losses were one score games. The Jaguars really could have had a much better record than 9-8 when they were losing games in the beginning of the season, first half of the season. A lot of those games, a lot of those losses were one score losses. So I don't remember them really getting blown out by anyone. So the Jaguars, they played tough the entire year. People's expectations were low for them this year. I thought they'd have a nice bounce back from last year. You couldn't really do much worse than last year under Urban Meyer. That was disgusting. That was a horrible. Urban Meyer should never be led on an NFL field again. But I knew the talent was there for a nice turnaround. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs, but I thought they'd have a good, respectable season. But so they did better than I thought, and I thought they'd do better than most people thought. So congratulations to Duval. You guys did a great job this year. Your fan base should be psyched. You've got a really good young team. I'm really happy for you guys. Really proud for you. And your fan base, you guys deserve it. You've had a lot of lean years here. Now, listen, as a Giants fan, I've been through a lot of lean years over the past 10 years. So have you guys. You guys have a lot of lean years over the past 10, 15 years. So I'm really happy for you. Duval fans, you guys deserve it. So hats off to you. Titans fans, I'll tell you, don't be surprised if your team is back next year. I assume they're bringing Tannehill back. I could be wrong. He is like in his mid 30s. Maybe they'll be looking to move on. You got, Malik Willis, who I don't know. Maybe they feel like he'll be ready next year. I don't know, but you'll have a full season of Traylon Burks. Maybe you get another wide receiver. I know they fired their general manager near the end of the season, but you've got a really great head coach in Mike Vrabel, and that is a really strong team. Tennessee had a lot. They had they don't they didn't have too much room for error. They're not like this isn't a team that's loaded with stars. It's stocked with very good players, and it's a very well coached team. But they need some more like star making players. The Titans, and I think that was the difference this season. The big thing was health, really, for the Titans. But I'm not down on the Titans in terms of like them trending downwards in the long term. I don't necessarily believe that. I think they have a lot of good talent, a lot of good young talent as well, and they've got that really good head coach in Mike Vrabel. So Tennessee, it was a down year. I think you can easily bounce back next year to have like a 10-7 team or even better and make the playoffs. But it is going to be an interesting offseason for Tennessee. All right, man, the Fighting Falcons. wound up being 7-10. Good record for them. Good record for them. That's a better record than this team should have had, given the limited amount of talent that I think they have on that roster. They have some really cool, good, young, promising talent. Don't get me wrong, but overall, I thought this team was going to be like 5 wins at most. 7-10. The Falcons had a lot of fight in them again this year. The defeat of the Buccaneers, 30-17. And I don't think, listen, the um, Buccaneers have not played well at all this entire year. And I think, I think I really didn't focus on this game too much, really, because I know the Buccaneers had the division sewn up already. This wasn't a game where if the Buccaneers lost that, the Saints could have won the division. The Buccaneers already had the division sewn up. I do believe Brady played. I think their starters played, and at least for some of this game. And the Falcons really just kicked the crap out of them. So, fighting Falcons, they fought to the end. Good for you guys. Buccaneers are limping into the playoffs, man. They are in the playoffs. They won the division, the AFC South, which is kind of like this year's version of the 2020. Uh, I'm sorry, I think I said AFC. The Buccaneers won at 8-9. They won the lowly NFC South, which is like this year's version of the 2020 NFC East. If you remember, that was where Washington won the division with a 7-9 record. Everyone else was pretty much 6-10, and all these crappy 6-10 teams were vying for that division win and playoff spot. Even though they were all a bunch of crap. And that was pretty much what you saw with the NFC South this year. Buccaneers did come out on top. One thing about the Buccaneers, I'll say this isn't your normal 8-9 team. They're just what I think just 2 years removed, I believe, from winning the Super Bowl. They still have a lot of talent. Maybe it's the coaching that's the problem. I know they have a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball, but especially the offensive line. It's been a problem this entire year. Their offensive line has been, I think it's gotten more and more injured as the year has gone on. Defense has suffered injuries as well, and it is an older team as well. It's not young, but I think a lot of the problems here have been injuries. I also think you don't have a very good head coach, and Tom Brady's definitely had a down year. I don't know what that is. It could be the divorce. It could be that he finally hit that wall. At the age of like 44, 45, he could have finally hit that wall. I'm not sure, but here's one thing I'll say. Buccaneers are limping into the playoffs. They'll be playing Dallas uh, this upcoming weekend in the wild card games. I will never in a million years count out Tom Brady or Tom Brady led team. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, even though we'll get to that later. Until these quarterbacks and their teams are actually officially out, I will never count them. I will never automatically write them off. Do I think the Buccaneers are gonna, go far in the playoffs? No, but I will never automatically count them out. I just cannot do that. It's impossible. Okay, the Bills, they wound up being 13-3, and they're not 13-4 or 14-3 because of the Damar Hamlin game a few weeks ago with the Bengals. That game did not wind up being played. So the Bills and Bengals basically played the equivalent of 16 games. They did take care of business against the 8-9 Patriots. Final score was 35-23. Patriots were playing for something here. The Patriots were in a win and in situation. The Patriots won this game. They were in the playoffs. And I think they played admirably up until the end. Really, the difference in this game, I was surprised by how well New England was playing in this game up until at least like the fourth quarter. New England, really, the difference in this game was the two kick returns or punt returns by Naheem Hines of the Bills, where he scored two touchdowns and was responsible for basically 14 points, essentially. And that was pretty much, the difference maker in this game. The Patriots played respectfully. Mac Jones, listen, he had three interceptions. Second year quarterback for the Patriots. He had three interceptions. He also had three touchdowns. And I could say he's definitely become the much maligned Mac Jones in the eyes of many. Um, I would say this. I'd say give that guy some time. Yeah, I saw something on him this past weekend about I guess like people complaining. I don't know if teammates were, but people complaining about him, like yelling at teammates. I think for mistakes made, and I don't know if that's a bad thing. I don't know if it's a good thing. Usually you think that's like you gotta kind of like earn your stripes before you're doing that. I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't know too much about Mac Jones except that he had a good rookie year. I think he actually had a pretty decent second year as well. And it didn't start off well, but I think it got better for him. And you know what? You had new offensive coordinators this year. Josh McDaniels, his first offensive coordinator his rookie year, left for the Raiders job, the head coach job over there, and he had Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator, with I think Joe Judge helping out. Neither of these guys had ever been an offensive coordinator. That could have messed with him. But you know what, the Patriots, man, this is a team that's not all that talented, and here they were at 8-9. With a win and in situation, week 17. Like I've said pretty much every week, you can never count out a Bill Belichick team, and everyone's complaining about Patricia and Joe Judge, and I assume rightfully so. Maybe there'll be a lot of improvement next year since it will be Patricia's second year as the OC if it does stay that way. But the Patriots did okay in terms of scoring points this year. They did. This is not a team that's loaded with offensive talent. Everybody knows that. They don't have great wide receivers. Devontae Parker, when he's on the field, when he's healthy, he's actually a pretty good wide receiver. He's pretty darn dangerous, and he actually had 2 touchdowns this past weekend. But that guy can never really stay healthy. Jacoby Myers, I think he's okay. He's capable of having some big games, but he also has his quiet games too. And then you have a good running back in it. You got that. And not a great offensive line, but I think it's okay. Uh, Patriots have a ways to go. They got a little way. They got a ways to go. They need to get more talent on that team. But hey, listen, man, for a team that wasn't all that steeped in all that talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball, you did okay. It was 8-9. Yeah, you were winning in week 17. What more can you ask for? Overall, I think the team did pretty well. The Patriots. So with Bills, it looks like it's going to be probably you expect going into this wild card, going into these playoffs. It's probably going to be the Bills and the Chiefs, but you never know. Everyone's really count. No one's really paying attention to the Bengals. It seems like. Just like last year. Just like last year. I guess the Bills and the Chiefs are probably the heavy betting favorites in the AFC. So look out for the Bengals, man. They are the defending AFC champions for a reason. Anyway, the 13-4 Vikings defeated the 3-14 Bears, 29-13. Bears fans, you got to be super psyched because you got the number one overall pick. Things went your way. Even if you would have had like the number 3 overall pick, number 2, that's great. But you wound up with the number 1 overall pick. You already have your quarterback of the future in Justin Fields. You were going to get a haul for that number 1 pick. It's going to be fun to see for you guys. That's awesome. The Vikings took care of business. They're going to be facing my Giants in the wild card game this upcoming weekend. I'm not going to spend too much time. The more interesting aspect of this game of the Vikings win was the Bears losing and getting that number 1 overall pick. So if they decide, I assume the Bears are going to keep Justin Fields. I think he's shown so much promise, especially his second year. The Bears, man, the haul they're going to get for that number 1 pick. Holy cow! Holy cow! Okay, the 12-4 Bengals defeated the 10-7 Ravens 27-16. The Ravens are reeling. The Ravens are going to the playoffs, but unless Lamar Jackson's playing, the Ravens are in trouble. They're going to be one and done. If Lamar Jackson, I haven't checked in probably like 2 days actually on Jackson's status. If he's not playing, the Ravens are done. I forgot. We'll see later who they're playing. I'll be doing my picks for the wild card game, but they're in big time trouble, man. They are in big time trouble if Lamar Jackson's not playing. If Lamar Jackson's playing, that changes everything. I'm not picking the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl, but that changes everything. Anyway, the Ravens win the AFC North for the second year in a row. The AKA the AFC defending champions. They look so good. They've been like the hottest team since I don't know, like the past like 8 weeks. The Bengals, they've been great. And remember, they even against the Bills last week, the Damar Hamlin game, unfortunately, um, listen, it was only at the end of the first quarter when the game was stopped, but just want to point out the Bengals were up. Well, it was in Cincinnati. I just want to point out the Bengals were up 7-3. Plenty of game to go, even more than 3 quarters of the game still to go. Don't get me wrong, but they were up 7-3 against the Bills. And I'm just trying to point out that everyone's kind of like not paying attention to the Bengals. And I'm just warning you, everyone's focused on the Chiefs, the sexier team. Everyone's focused on the Josh Allen Bills, who are sexy, very sexy. showing those thighs, those really hot legs and everything. No one's paying attention to the cutie pie in the corner, the Cincinnati Bengals. And they got their guy last year. They got their guy last year. No one is paying attention to them. Could be the same situation right here. We got a comment. Let's check this out. Rich Gonzalez, aka Frito Bandito. What's up? How's it going, Rich? How's it going, my friend? Thanks for jumping in and joining in. I really appreciate it, my friend. And Happy New Year to you, Rich. All right, man. All right, so I'm just saying, watch out for the Bengals, man. They are just a solid team, a really solid team. They're healthy. Their defense has been playing really well. Obviously, Burrow's been the man again. He's obviously proving himself to be an elite quarterback. There was no doubt about that anyway. But, sometimes they have to make a Super Bowl appearance, you kind of have like a down year. Didn't happen with the Bengals. It started off, they had a slow start to this year. They were looking shaky, but man, they righted that ship big time. Bengals look really good. And I'd feel comfortable with them against any team, including the Bills, including the Chiefs. I don't think they should. I mean, someone's got to be an underdog, but man, those are going to be good games. If and when the Bengals play the Chiefs or the Bills, those are going to be really good games, man. Really good games. But again, the Ravens, man, if Lamar Jackson, it's all about Lamar Jackson for them to have any chance in the playoffs. And the Ravens are, I don't think they're beating the Chiefs. I don't think they're beating the Bills. I don't think they're beating the Bengals, even if Lamar's playing. But if they're going to have any chance in the playoffs at all, the Ravens, they need Lamar. Otherwise, they're one and done. Okay, the Dolphins. Since the Patriots lost, the Dolphins won. They did take care of business in a nail biter, but they finished 9-8. They defeated the Jets 11-6. The Dolphins wound up taking that playoff spot ahead of um ahead of the Patriots. Final score of this game was 11-6. Jets. I hope they get a real quarterback after this year, and I don't hear any of this Mike White crap. I don't want to hear any Mike White crap. The guy's a good quality, total quality backup quarterback in the NFL. Good enough that, you know what? If your starting quarterback's going to go down for like 4 to 6 weeks, you're good. Mike White, if he's surrounded with talent, can carry the team for a while. I strongly feel it about Mike White. But if you think Mike White should in any way be your starting quarterback for the entire season next year, starting week one, you're out of your mind. Out of your mind. If Carr is going to be out there, Jets have to try to get Carr or Garoppolo or Lamar Jackson. If he actually hits free agency, I think Baltimore's crazy if they do that. But if he hits free agency, go for Lamar. And actually, if I'm the Jets, the first person I would actually place a phone call to, if he hits free agency, the first one would be Daniel Jones, because I don't think he'd be as expensive as Lamar Jackson. It wouldn't be. It might not be as expensive as Carr. Um, even Tannehill might be a free agent out there. I wouldn't want to go with an older quarterback, to be honest with you. Daniel Jones would be a perfect fit for the Jets. He'd be stepping right into a team that's loaded with young talent like he is. He's a young player, an up and coming player. The Jets have a really good defense. They have a very good head coach. I don't care. I've heard people complain about Rob Saleh. Rob Saleh was dealing with a difficult situation with that quarterback situation. It wasn't easy when you're trying to grow and groom a young quarterback, and he's not turning out the way you thought he would. It's a difficult situation because you want to win games but grow the young quarterback at the same time. And the Jets had that conundrum, and it's unfortunate because really, I think you could see that if they were playing either Joe Flacco, if they were starting Joe Flacco or Mike White, the entire season, that the Jets would have, undoubtedly they would have made the playoffs. So it's a shame. The Jets are like the Lions; they are probably the two most talented teams that were left out of the playoffs. That talent wise probably should have been the Dolphins, not the Dolphins. The Jets were, a downright really good team at times when they had Mike White in there, and Joe Flacco earlier this year too. Same thing with the Dolphins though too. The Dolphins were rocking. Let's not forget earlier this year when Tua was healthy, that offense was rolling. They beat the Bills, I believe, in Miami. I believe they did beat the Bills, and the Dolphins were looking fantastic. Obviously, the wheels came off for the Dolphins when Tua had his second or third concussion, whatever it was, and that's where things came off. That's where the wheels came off. So the Dolphins are in real trouble. I assume Tua is not playing this week. I don't know if he's going to be playing at all the rest of the year. The Dolphins are done. It's cool that they made the playoffs. Listen, they're not going anywhere without Tua. They're not going anywhere in the playoffs at all. Like the Ravens, the Ravens aren't going anywhere with without Lamar. Dolphins aren't going anywhere in the playoffs without Tua. Next year, Dolphins have to do something with the quarterback situation. You're too good now to be held like the Jets. You're too good now to be spending your time on hoping that a young quarterback either develops in terms of Zach Wilson or can stay healthy with Tua. You can't do that anymore. I'm not saying you trade, your draft capital to get yet another young quarterback. The exact opposite. You got to get a good veteran. He's not doesn't have to be a five-time Pro Bowler, but he's got to be a good, solid veteran, like a Carr, like a Lamar Jackson. Get him in free agency, or if you got to trade, for one first-round pick for a guy that's out there that's a good quarterback, do it. But free agency, this is a pretty good quarterback class. Free agency, like I said, Lamar, could be available. Uh, Carr is probably going to be available. Garoppolo should be out there. You've got some others too, possibly even Tannehill. And like I said, though, if I'm the Jets or even the Dolphins, the first person I'm going to if he hits the free agent market, is Daniel Jones. I swear, that's my honest opinion there. Moon Vibes, Joe, my guy, Moon Vibes. Moon Vibes is a great guy. It's one of the many people have been drafting with. We've had like for the past 2 months, we've had like once a month. We've had a 2023 NFL mock draft, and Moon Vibes is my guy. It's good to see you, Moon Vibes. Thanks for checking in. I really appreciate it, my friend. Moon Vibes, what a great week 17 it was, or week 18, I should say. What a great way to end the 2023 season, man. So many win and in games, really exciting, man. But Moon Vibes is one of the guys that I've been drafting with like once a month over the past 2 or 3 months. We just had our third mock draft last week, a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to the next one, Moon Vibes. Looking forward to the next one. I don't know if that's going to be February or if we're going to do it sooner, but I'm really looking forward to it, man. All right, let's get back over here. Okay, the 7-10 Panthers defeated the 7-10 Saints. 10-7. Wow? I just realized that the 7-10 Panthers defeated the 7-10 Saints 10-7. I don't want to spend too much time in this game. Both of these teams stinks. I thought the Saints were overrated coming into the season. I was proven right. I thought the Panthers were like a five-win team, five-win team coming into the season. They actually did better than I thought. It's funny how they got better once that crappy head coach Matt Rule was fired. As soon as he was fired, whammo, the Panthers did get better. Yes, they were much worse than the beginning of the season. And Matt Rule was gone. I'm glad he got the job in Nebraska, Matt Rule. I do think he's a really, really good college head coach. I'm, I thought Nebraska would be perfect for him. I knew they needed a head coach, and I think he's going to do a good job over there. I'm looking forward to Matt Rule in Nebraska, but man, that guy needed to go. Panthers did it right when they got rid of him early in the season. It was the right time to do it. That team was headed nowhere, and it was funny too. After they traded Christian McCaffrey, the Panthers got better as well. The Panthers fans. I'm not dumping on your team. I don't dump on teams anyway. I might have a little fun. I don't dump on teams. I will say this: you have some good young talent to work with over there. You do have some good young talent to work with in the Panthers, and we'll see who your new head coach is going to be. But you got some. You're going to have a good draft pick. You're going to have some good draft picks this upcoming draft in 2023. But you do have some good young talent. The cupboards aren't completely bare. I think your 2024 season holds some promise. The near future, 2023, 24, 25, the near future. I don't think it's going to be as bleak as maybe I've heard some of you say over the next year, 2, 3 years. It might not be that bad. I think your team actually could have a pretty quick turnaround. Uh, let's see, Saints. Saints. I'll say this: I don't know what your front office, what your general manager was thinking last year trading this year's first round pick last year for a second pick in the 2022 draft, and he didn't get a quarterback. I don't know what you were doing. I'd fire that general manager. That was the dumbest move one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen made by a general manager was what the Saints general manager did last year. That move made no sense whatsoever. I love Christian Olave. I always like Olave. It doesn't matter getting a wide receiver in the first round when you give up this year's first round pick to get an extra first round pick last year. That made no sense. I know he moved up a little bit to get Olave. Again, I liked Olave. He had a really good year. It doesn't matter. It was just such a stupid move. Oh, I'm gonna check the Moon Vibes checking in again. The mocks are better each time. Yeah, man, I agree. I agree. And you know what? I feel like I'm reading up on the players a lot myself too, so I'm getting more and more familiar with them. But I agree with you, Moon Vibes. The experience is elite. Your expertise is needed in this community. I'm happy I finally caught a show. Hey, man, I agree with you. My expertise is needed in the community. I agree with you, Moon Vibes. But honestly, Moon Vibes is listen. Moon Vibes is just being he's being very kind to me. Moon Vibes is the expert in this community, so I'm just along for the ride. You know, I love being on it because I love mock drafts. I'm on the mock draft simulator. Is starting in February after the Super Bowl. I'll probably do at least 500 mock drafts on my little simulator on my phone up until draft day. I'm not even exaggerating the number there. That's how I usually learn players. I do pretty darn well learning about these players. But this year, I've been having to do write ups for toilets and titles. We've been doing these mock drafts once a month with Moon Vibes and like eight or nine or 10 other people. Been a great experience, man. So I feel like I'm really ready for the 2023 draft. Yeah, week 18 was epic. Yeah, beautiful way to close the season. I'm with you, man. You know, it's funny because I don't know, like 4 or 5 weeks ago, I'm like, man, I can't wait for the season to end. I want to get the playoffs rolling. I was getting kind of bored with the NFL season at that point, like 5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. The past few weeks, it's really heated up, and week 18 was epic. Knew the Giants were going to rest, and still they look good. Yeah, man, still they look good. You know, they look good. Well, I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I'm looking forward to my team, and see what they do in Minnesota. A lot of Giants fans, not me, Moon Vibes, but a lot of Giants fans are getting kind of cocky. I gotta say, and like they're really expecting to win in Minnesota, and like, yeah, I think we can do it. You know, I think we match up well against Minnesota, but they are 13-4 for a reason. And even when we did play that close game with them a few weeks ago, we had to score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion like with time running out just to even tie the game. So we'll see what happens, man. I mean, I'd rather play Minnesota than some of those other teams, but Minnesota's 13-4 for a reason. But Moon Vibes, listen, man, I feel good about my team. I'm just happy we're in the playoffs for the first time in 2016 and only the second time in 10 years, man. 10 years. So I am super happy about that. Anyway, Panthers, good for you. Good for you guys, man. You got rid of your crappy head coach who, God bless him, is going off to Nebraska. I think he's going to be a good college head coach yet again. You defeated the Saints 10-7. And like I said, Saints, man, I've got nothing against you, but I was just so annoyed with the move that your front office made last year. I think it was a fireable offense getting rid of this first year, this year's first round pick. It made zero sense when it wasn't used on a quarterback. It made zero sense. So now you're in a little trouble. Now you're in a little trouble because you don't have a quarterback, which you could easily get one in free agency or maybe trade for one. But I just thought it was such a stupid move. I thought it was so stupid, but that I actually, whenever I cover the Saints game here on my weekly show, and I wind up going to the Saints results, I got to bring it up because I found it that annoying. I really did. Anyway, let's move on. Steelers had a chance to make the playoffs if the Patriots lost, which they did, and if the Dolphins lost, which did not happen. So, but the Steelers finished strong, man. 9-8. Really proud of this team. The team was kind of reeling through most of this year, kind of getting their footing. This is a team that's restocking. And good thing is they've got a great front office and they've got one of the best head coaches of his generation. It's still going on today, Mike Tomlin. You got leadership like that. You got a front office that knows how to draft and is smart at finding, free agents. And then you got a great head coach that players respond to and is always getting good coaches underneath him as well. And Mike Tomlin, you're going to be in a good position. Here they are, the Steelers, um, 9-8. It's they do have a lot of good young talent that I think it has not reached its potential. It could use more. But you look at the Steelers offense, man. Kenny Pickett, he had a really good rookie year, and he got better and better as the season went along. That's what you want to see with the young quarterback. Look at the weapons around him too. He's got George Pickens, who had a really good rookie year. Look at that draft class here for last year, 2022 with the Steelers. First round pick, they got it looks like their franchise quarterback for the next like 12 to 15 years in Kenny Pickett. That's what it looks like. At least he had a really good rookie year. And then the second round, they got George Pickens, who was their best wide receiver this year, at least as the season went on. And you can see clearly, Deontay Johnson's a good wide receiver. Don't get me wrong, he's a good wide receiver, but the real talent, the guy with the real ceiling, is George Pickens. And he should have been talent wise a first round pick last year. But I know there were some issues with the guy, some current concerns with his character. I would be too when you punch out a coach in on your college staff. But anyway, George Pickens. I love that name too, George Pickens. Pickens had a great season, and you look at Najee Harris. They got the tight end. Is it Frankenmuth? Is that his name? I forgot off the top of my head. Frankenmuth. They got some weapons, man, and they made the right move in trading Chase Claypool. They made the right move, and I forgot the draft capital they got. Nothing against Claypool. I think Claypool's okay. I also think Claypool's ceiling. I think we've seen it. I think his ceiling is at best number two wide receiver, and there's nothing wrong with that because if you're a top quality number two wide receiver, it's extremely important. But I don't think Claypool's ceiling is like top notch number two. I think it's really okay number two. And I think his ceiling may actually be like a number three wide receiver. I thought it was a good move getting rid of Claypool, getting draft capital. Your future it lies in George Pickens and Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, and Fryermuth, and obviously Kenny Pickett. And the Steelers always know what they're doing on defense. This team really started rolling off wins once Watt and Fitzpatrick came back. And those are two defensive studs. You lose those two guys, which they pretty much did at the same time, and they both came back at the same time, the difference is going to be obvious. And Steelers played so much better over the past few weeks, and those two guys came back, came this close to making the playoffs. They did get a winning record, 9-8. They defeated the Browns, who were 28-14. Listen, Browns 7-10. You guys could wind up bouncing back next year big time. Deshaun Watson, a full season under his belt. We all know the guy is super talented. Restock a little bit on both sides of the ball. I would say, in particular, on offense, you do need some more wide receivers on offense for Cleveland. But Cleveland could easily bounce back and be like a 10-7 team, or maybe even better next year. We'll see. But Steelers, you guys are heading in the right direction. You're heading in the right direction. And before I move on to the next game, yeah, Moon Vibes. Yeah, he says Moon Vibes says I'm surprised Mike Tomlin didn't get more love in the Coach of the Year race. Good point. You know what, Moon Vibes? I have to say I didn't even think about that. He went 9-8 with more room for potential with young players. I think Pickett is Tomlin's guy. I'm intrigued to see the draft. Yeah, and you know what, man? Pittsburgh. I'm always a big fan of Pittsburgh and their draft classes. It's almost like there's sometimes where it doesn't seem apparent how good the fit is for their team, but it winds up down the road. Whoever they pick winds up being really good for their fit for their team. And he says Najee Harris really put it together as the season went on. Yeah, he did. He got better and better. The Steelers team as a whole started off slow, especially the offensive side of the ball. They did with Trubisky and kind of waiting to eventually start Pickett. There were a lot of fantasy analysts that went crazy on Najee this year. Yeah, but they were quiet towards the end. Yeah. Fantasy analysts, man, it's so much different from it's so much different from just when looking at it from just a purely NFL perspective. People get personal when it comes to fantasy stuff, man. I don't go that far. I don't go that way. I always look at things from the NFL point of view. I do like fantasy. I'm in a fantasy football. I've been playing for a long time, but I like looking at things from the NFL prism. And you gotta understand what's going on around these players on these teams. Yeah, Steelers are in somewhat of a transition period in terms of like reloading the team and moving on from Roethlisberger to Pickett, moving on from some of their former wide receivers to young wide receivers, their old running backs to Najee Harris. It's transition time, man, and not everything just goes on a straight trajectory. So I love Najee Harris coming out. When they got Najee Harris, I loved the pick. He had a good year last year. I wasn't surprised he took a bit of a dive. Listen, I don't think Najee Harris is like, I don't think he's an elite running back. I never felt like I felt like he can be a really good running back in the NFL and fantasy. But there's going to be guys that I'm going to have ahead of Najee Harris. But when this offense is clicking as a whole, when Kenny Pickett really has his NFL legs under him, when George Pickens is probably really like becoming an elite wide receiver or something like that, and this other talent, Deontay Johnson, or if they draft another wide receiver this year, when the offense is looking more like an experienced unit, I think is where Najee Harris is really going to shine. So don't get me wrong and move on, because I don't want to seem contradictory. I don't want to seem like I'm contradicting myself. I like Najee Harris. I've always liked Najee Harris. I don't really see him as like a top five RB talent in the NFL. Top 10, top 10. But man, this team, I think the Steelers are going to be pretty damn deadly. And maybe next year or the year after that, and Najee Harris is going to be a huge, huge part of it. Bless you too, Moon Vibes. Bless you, man. Moon Vibes, are you a Steelers fan? Are you a Steelers fan? Let me know. I'm just curious if you're a Steelers fan. I don't think I ever asked you. I'm always intrigued by people's, their fandom, who their NFL teams are. But I have nothing but respect for if you are a Steelers fan, I'm just saying, for other Steelers fans out there, I've got nothing but respect for the Steelers, the organization, ownership, fan base. Just a great team, man. Great team. But let me know, Moon Vibes, who your team is. But yeah, Najee Harris is, in terms of like, I don't think he's a top five RB talent, but you know, when this team, but I think he's a really good running back, regardless of what's going on with wide receivers and quarterback in Pittsburgh. I do believe, I think he's a really good running back. But man, when that offense, when everyone's clicking, when that young talent on that offense is all kind of really growing into their own at the same time. Najee Harris is going to be a big part of that. He's going to be one of those guys with George Pickens and Kenny Pickett and Fryermuth, and it's going to be fun to see if you're a Steelers fan. It's not going to take too long. Not with Mike Tomlin at the helm. It's not going to take too long. All right, guys. Broncos are 5-12. They finish off a horrendous season. Final score was 10-7. Final score was 10-7. 5-12 Broncos defeated the Chargers 31-28. Final score was 10-7. Um, I'm actually not surprised by the result here. Russell Wilson been playing a lot better over the past month, maybe 6 weeks, definitely over the past 4 weeks. Um, the Russell Wilson has been playing a lot better. Really bad season. It was a horrible season, a horrendous season. You can't sign a contract like that, have those expectations with a really good defense. And I thought an overrated offense, but still a quality. It should have been what should have been a quality NFL offense with the Broncos. You can't start off the way he did, man. You can't start off the way like you know the offense. Russell Wilson was absolutely horrendous for the majority of the year. The offense looked horrible, but it was really on Russ Wilson. He looked horrible for like 2/3 of the season. But I got to say, over like the past month, like 4, 5, 6 weeks, Russ has played a lot better. Um, and they defeated the Chargers 31-28. The Chargers already had it sewn up. They had their playoff spot already sewn up. Let me check something out right here, real quick. Let me check out this box score. I forgot to check this one out. Um, Herbert didn't play, did he? Yeah, Broncos beat Herbert. Playoff bound Chargers. Did he play? I forgot to actually check out the details of this game. I just assumed Herbert wasn't playing. Herbert did play. And man, that doesn't look good for Herbert did play. Wow. And two touchdowns. He played a good game, 273 yards, two touchdowns. Not a good look for Chargers heading to the playoffs. Keenan Allen had a monster game. He looks like he's fully healthy. Same thing with Mike Williams. That's all that matters to the Chargers. The two oft injured wide receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, these guys are 100% healthy. Eckler's 100% healthy. All of these guys, Eckler, the two wide receivers, these guys are so damn injury prone, and they're all healthy. Eckler's had an awesome year. They're all healthy. That's all that matters. Obviously, along with Justin Herbert, but that's all that matters to the Chargers is Herbert's healthy, Eckler's healthy, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are fully healthy. The team's ready to roll. I still don't believe in this team. I'm not. I love the talent on the team. I love Justin Herbert. He is an elite quarterback. There's just something about the defense has not been what we expected this year. That's what probably scares me the most. If the defense lived up to how good I thought they were going to be coming into the season, the Chargers, that is, I'd feel much better about their chances against Buffalo and Kansas City and Cincinnati. But it's been a real weak link for this team this year. Um, and I don't like their chance at all. I don't like the Chargers' chance against those three teams in the AFC playoffs at all. I don't like it. But man, all right, Russell Wilson, 283 yards, three touchdowns, and interception. Good for him. Good for him. So, Jerry Judy, 154 yards, monster game, monster game. Latavius Murray, 103 yards. So hey man, Denver didn't go down. They didn't go down, without a fight. Good for them. Um, like I said, Russ has been playing a lot better. He was only 13 for 24, but he did have 3 touchdowns and he put up 283 yards. Good job, Russ. Good job, man. Good job. Um, all right, so but the Chargers, for me, honestly, the Chargers are. Listen, they could be a surprise, but they're not really on my radar to make too much noise in these playoffs. I do not see them. Their defense was not very good this year. I do not see them playing, beating Buffalo or Kansas City or Cincinnati. I think the Chargers have a definite ceiling in this year's playoffs. Okay, before I get on to the next game. Oh, Moon Vibes, you're a Falcons fan. Okay, man. He knows how to handle heartbreak, man. I hear you. I hear. All right, cool, man. Falcons fan. Good man. Good man. Hey, what'd you think about Desmond Ritter? I covered the Falcons game earlier in the broadcast. I call them Moon Vibes. I call them the Fighting Falcons because second year in a row. Listen, losing record, but they've been fighting to the end. They fought like every game. And even this year and last year, I feel like the team got more wins than people expected to get. I do like quite a bit of the young talent on your team that you've got there. And just looking to see what your thoughts are for Desmond Ritter, if he's a possible quarterback one for the team, if they have any plans, what the thinking is in Atlanta regarding Desmond Ritter. Are they going to look to get quarterback in the first round this year, or are they going to be giving Ritter a shot? What's the thoughts on Desmond Ritter? Because the Riddler is the guy who I thought was kind of like a wild card in last year's draft, where he could be like the third round pick, that the third round quarterback, who winds up being a quality starter. So, Diggs, hey man, hey, what's up? What's going on, Diggs? Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for checking in. How's it going? And he says you saw us get our first win against Tom Brady. It's got to be a good feeling, man. Got to be a good feeling. Anytime you can beat the goat, it's a good feeling. It really is. I gotta say, and I don't hate Tom Brady. Tom Brady, I actually love Tom Brady. I respect the guy. I'm not a Brady fan. I'm only fans of Giants players. That's it. But I like Tom Brady. I respect him. I like him a lot. NFL won't be the same when he eventually retires, whenever that's going to be. But it is a good feeling to beat the guy because when you beat the guy, you're beating the goat. It's always a good feeling, man. But yeah, Moon Vibes. Let me know what you think about Ritter, or if you want them to go Falcons to go get a quarterback in this upcoming draft. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. I'm curious because I thought Ritter could wind up being a good surprise quarterback, starting quarterback possibly. Then he had that potential. Uh, I don't know if you want to ride it out that way with just potential, but or if you want to get another quarterback. But yeah, Ritter intrigued me. Ritter very much intrigued me. Desmond Ritter. All right, guys, let me move along over here. Banners. All right, so Eagles 14-3. They wound up with the number one seed in the NFC. They defeated my 9-7-1 New York Giants 22-16. Eagles are looking kind of shaky going into the playoffs. I still think, listen, they're the number one seed. They deserve the number one seed. Um, you know, I'm very happy my Giants in the playoffs. I don't have too many playoff expectations of them. I'm just right now. I'm so ecstatic. Like Giants fans, my fellow Giants fans are getting a little cocky. Like a lot of them expect like no matter what, like they're like we're going to beat Minnesota. I think we can beat Minnesota. I'm not. If I were a betting man, just talking straight up, I would actually put my money on Minnesota to possibly, probably win a close game. But out of the other teams that in the playoffs, like I like my odds against the most against Minnesota. Philadelphia is kind of limping into these playoffs here. They haven't been the same. Then again, Hurts has been injured, and that's really been the big difference. And Hurts was probably playing injured yesterday or this past weekend when they held on for a win 22-16. Philadelphia had the game in hand throughout most of the way. They were like up 16-0, it's 16-3. And the Giants wind up making a late push there. They scored. I think the Giants scored their only touchdown, I believe, and I think the 2 point conversion. I think maybe I'm wrong about that, but they scored their only touchdown near the end of the game. But still, Giants could have won this game at the very end with their mostly third stringers, second stringers too, mostly third stringers. But my fellow Giants fans are going to. So I'm happy the way my team played. Don't get me wrong. They sat their starters, understandably so. A lot of our key starters are really banged up. You can see with Saquon for the past six weeks. He's not 100%. He could play, but it's just he wasn't the same Saquon from earlier this year. Uh, Leo Williams is one of our best defensive players. He's been playing with a neck burner for a long time now, and he will until the season's over. He may need surgery at the end of the season. He has some other key players that needed to sit, just really really banged up, playing still well, but really needed to sit and use the time off. And I'm proud. I'm proud of how my team went down, man. They fought 22-16. The Eagles needed this game if they wanted the number one seed. Giants kept it close. I was really happy with the performance of the Giants, but Eagles, to be fair to them, Jalen Hurts has been injured for a while. I'm sure he was playing yesterday, at least kind of banged up, and I'm sure the Eagles weren't firing in all cylinders. I'm sure they felt like coming in, they had this thing, under control. They were going to get the number one seed. So, but anyway, great season for both teams, man. The Eagles are that team is as talented as anyone on both sides of the ball in the NFL. They have possibly the best general manager in football. That guy is a friggin' magician. He is Howie Roseman's playing like 5D chess, while other GMs, even really good GMs, are not even close. This guy has been just such a great general manager over the past few years. But hats off to my Giants too. You know, Listen, I thought they could be a pretty good team with the talent on paper, and if Dable wound up being a good coach, everything came together. I was super psyched about the future of my team, the New York Giants, um, and I'm really looking forward to the playoffs, man. I'm really looking forward to the playoffs. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. Moon Vibes says every leap to find value. Oh yeah, turn over every leap to find value at the position. Yeah, that's what the Falcons are going to do. Quarterback position. Their end of season press conference was a must watch if you want to know how we're attacking this offseason. Highly suggest you watch. You know what, Moon Vibes? I'm going to do that when this is over. I'm going to do that. As a matter of fact, that sounds really interesting. Um, and he says about the Falcons, I guess, I think we have 85 million in cap space. That's a good amount, and a lot of picks to explore. I trust that we're building. We are competitive in every game besides Cincinnati. Cincy, we will be a problem soon, Joe. Moon Vibes, I agree with you, man. I've been calling them the Fighting Falcons for the past two seasons because you expect that team to get its shit kicked in, to be honest with you, and they haven't. They've been like, I don't know if they've been covering all their spreads, but every game has been pretty damn close. And every week, it's like their games, like even their losses, have been really close, and they've had their surprise wins too. So, you know what? Listen, man, you got some good young talent there. Obviously, you need a lot more, but I like a lot of the young guys that you got. I do. I like a lot of the young guys the Fighting Falcons got. So anyway, I think I'm wrapped up with the Giants game, Eagles game. I'm just really proud of my team heading the playoffs. I love the way they played this year. I feel super, super, super happy and confident and optimistic about the future, the direction of the Giants. I knew they had good, really good young talent on that team. It just wasn't being allowed to shine because the previous coaches sucked. And I mean, there's more to it too. There's always been injuries on this team. Yeah, they've had some injuries this year too, not like they had over the past few years. And Giants stayed relatively healthy. The players that they really needed to shine and rock the house did it. And when you look at the Eagles, man, the Eagles are a level or two above the Giants. But I'd still love to play. Listen, man, I'd love to beat Minnesota, and I'd love a third crack at the Eagles. I'd love a third crack at the Eagles. I always like when we make the playoffs. I always want to play the best teams. I always want to play the best teams because when you beat the best teams, the feeling is that much sweeter. And if you lose, well, you're probably going to lose anyway. But when you actually beat those teams in the playoffs that you weren't expected to beat, the feeling is that much sweeter. That's right. That's right. Great moments are born from great opportunity, as the late great Herb Brooks once said in that famous speech. And that is one of my favorite lines of all time. Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's why I love playing the best possible teams in the playoffs. Line them up, and we'll just let the chips fall where they may. Anyway, the 13-4 49ers defeated the 4-13 Cardinals 38-13. Horrible year for the Cardinals. Head coach is gone. Cliff Kingsbury, he's gone. It looks like DeAndre Hopkins is going to be traded. Um, New York Giants, please place a phone call. Please call Arizona about DeAndre Hopkins. I know every other team's gonna be interested in trading for DeAndre Hopkins as well, but we really need him. for next year. Obviously, we're not getting him this year, but for next year. But please place a phone call and be somewhat aggressive. Don't give away multiple, first round picks. But one first round pick in 2023 is a okay by me, to be honest with you. I don't mind trading one first round pick. Doesn't really bug me. There's so many first round picks that wind up being busts anyway. Anyway, 49ers are looking really strong. I would be concerned. I think, and I forgot, I think Garoppolo is done for the year. If I'm wrong about that, I feel much better about the 49ers' chances. I'm worried about a rookie quarterback leading a team in the playoffs. Brock Purdy has looked really good. He's looked great. You couldn't ask for more. I don't even know if Garoppolo could do as well as Purdy's been doing with this team, to be honest with you. I still get worried by a rookie quarterback in the playoffs. However, the 49ers are loaded in talent. Basically, they could pretty much just say to Purdy, kind of like it's always been with Garoppolo, um, just don't make a mistake and everything should be okay. 49ers are a healthy team. For a long time, they've always been a very banged up team pretty much each year. Not this year. They've been pretty healthy. They're rocking. No team wants to play the 49ers except for me. I don't mind my Giants playing the 49ers. We'll get our teeth kicked in, but you know what? If we happen to win, the glory will be that much better. The 49ers looking really good. I still have a lot of people that picking the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl. I still think Dallas, if Dak starts playing like Dak, he hasn't been Dak this year. This crazy rate of interceptions is just insane. That's not Dak Prescott. If Dak can play like Dak normally plays, I think Dallas is the best team in the NFC, and I think Dallas is actually the best team in the NFL. Very close with the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs. But if Dak can just be Dak and not playing like he's been playing like crap for this season, if he could just be Dak, I think everything else is good with the Cowboys. I think the defense is really good. It's a physical defense. It's a tough defense. They've got some good wide receivers. I don't think the wide receiving core is great. It's not, but it's good. I think it's good enough to win a Super Bowl with. And the running back situation with Zeke is not Zeke of his prime, but Pollard's been a monster. You got that two-headed monster there between Pollard and Zeke, and you've got Dalton Schultz, who is looks like he's fully back, fully healthy now, looking really good. If Dak can be his normal self, Dallas is extremely dangerous. I do think, Dallas is the best team in the NFC, but I can't ignore the 49ers. They're a really tough team. 49ers have such a tough defense. They have an offense I absolutely love, and it's so tough to defend against. But 49ers are as good as any team to win the Super Bowl this year. They are. I still think Dallas, if Dak can be Dak, I think Dallas is the team to beat, actually. But we got to see. Dak has not played well this year, but I am worried if I'm the 49ers. I am worried about a rookie quarterback, even though he has played great. He has played great. I give him all the props in the world. I just get worried about you know the playoffs because now you're going against elite team against elite team, elite team, elite team, pretty much all the way up into the Super Bowl. So we'll see. But 49ers are in as good position as anyone else. Cardinals, a world of change probably coming. A world of change coming for the Cardinals. However, Cardinal fans, I do believe in your team. I think your team has got a lot of really, really good young talent. This was a bad year for many reasons. It wasn't just Kyler Murray, wasn't just his injury, just wasn't it wasn't just the head coach. It was many reasons. You had many injuries yourself. I do listen. Who they get as their head coach now is key. It is, but they've been building a really good young talented team over in Arizona, and I wouldn't get discouraged just yet. I think this is just a step backwards, one step backwards this year, a big one, but one step. And Arizona Cardinals fans, I think you guys can take two steps forward next year. This is a really good young talented team. Um, so we'll see, but you're going to have to get the right head coach in there now. Yeah, that's key. That is super important. Um, okay, so the Seahawks 9-8. They won. They went to the playoffs. They got that final number 7 seed in the NFC. They defeated the Rams 19-16. The Rams ended the season 5-12. Defending Super Bowl champions wound up the season 5-12. Rams just everything went wrong. Wheels came off in the beginning of the season. But you know what? Rams will tell you this. Um, listen, I know you got a lot of older players and you got like you're in trouble with the cap space and everything, and maybe you don't have picks. I get it, but just remember this: you are still the defending Super Bowl champions, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if you're if you're, McVay leaves at the end of the season, it doesn't matter if you're low on draft picks in 2023 or maybe even 2024. None of that matters. You know what? You got the Super Bowl. You got the championship last year. And if you got to pay, pay for it with a few lean years over the next few years, I'd happily do that. Who cares? It doesn't really matter. So I know things didn't go the way you expected, but actually wasn't super surprised by a disappointing season for the Rams because I never liked their running game. I knew their offensive line was not very good. They did wind up getting injured too, but I never felt like their offensive line was very good anyway. And this is a team where a lot of the players, aside from maybe Cooper Cup, a lot of the players or older. I know Cooper Cup isn't, but you had a lot of older players on this team. And once Matthew Stafford's shoulder, was injured, which it was early on in this year, it was pretty much done. And he never really had, all you had was Cooper Cup. I never liked the Rams running backs. Honestly, I was never into Allen Robinson either. I did think he'd have a much better season in LA with Stafford and with that offense and McVay and playing alongside Cooper Cup. I was never an Allen Robinson guy, to be honest with you. But listen, none of that matters. You guys are the Super Bowl champions. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter, what direction the team's in for the next few years. You got the Super Bowl. That's what matters. Seahawks, congratulations. You guys had a great year. This is the team who, in my opinion, the Seahawks had the best draft class in 2022. They got two starting tackles, two starting cornerbacks, and Tariq Woolen might be the cornerback of the year. He's right up there with Sauce Gardner, and they got Kenneth Walker the third, who's going to be like your RB1, like legit RB1 for like the next 4 or 5 years. And you probably got your quarterback out of the blue in Geno Smith. So I'm assuming he's a free agent. I assume he and Seattle are going to come together and strike like a 3 or 4 year deal or something. I don't. The two of you got to stick together. The two of you guys need to stick together. If I'm Geno Smith, I'm looking to go nowhere. I want to stay in Seattle, and I'll take less money to do so. And Seattle they should be looking to stick with Geno Smith as well. So I'm really excited about Seattle's future. What a turnaround for that team, man! What a turnaround for that team. They are limping into the playoffs. Seattle was at one point like 7-3, 7-2, I think 7-3, and they kind of limped in the playoffs like some of these other teams. My Giants kind of the same way. I mean, I like the way that my Giants have been playing for the past few weeks, but they had a stretch of like 3 or 4 weeks there where they didn't win any games. But some of these teams are kind of like limping into the playoffs a little bit. I don't know if that's the right word, but not they're not going into the playoffs like with the best mojo like they had in the middle of the season. And Seahawks is one of those teams. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Seattle, you had a hell of a year this year, turning things around. Like I said, I think you guys had the best draft class in 2022. The impact was incredible to find starters, rookie starters, quality rookie starters at both tackle positions and two cornerback positions is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. And you pulled your new quarterback out of your rear end, and you've got this like 5 star, running back, for the next like 5 years. Kenneth Walker the third looks like a damn beast. And I did love that guy coming out last year's draft too. But man, even better than I thought. But congratulations, the Seahawks. They got the number 7 seed in the NFC. Well deserved. The Chargers are what is this here? This is a mistake. No, this is a mistake. Ignore this. That's something I probably should have been trashed there. Um, okay, the Commanders defeated the Cowboys. Commanders wound up being 8-1. They defeated the 12-5 Cowboys. And I didn't put a score in there. I'm sorry, people. Let me get this. Can't believe that. I didn't double check everything last night when I entered all this information. So the final score of the Commanders Dallas game was 26-6. I'm gonna pop that in there right now. Can't believe I did that. So unprofessional of me. 26-6. What a bloodbath. It's funny though. I think I may have said in last week's episode when I was giving my picks for this week, be careful with this game. The Cowboys are clearly a better team than Washington. However, Washington has had a history of having Dallas's number. In our division, the NFC East, Philadelphia has the Giants' number. They have my team's number. They always do. And the Giants have Washington's number. So again, NFC East lesson. Washington has Dallas's number. Philadelphia has the Giants' number, and the Giants have Washington's number. That's how it's pretty much always been. So you can never be surprised by these crazy upsets or these crazy results in this division because one team has another team's number, and that team has another team's number. It's just crazy, but that's how it's been working for a really long time. But even I'm surprised that the Commanders won this game and they won it 26-6. Dak had a really bad game, but like I said, listen, and Dallas was playing for something too. They were playing for seeding, and I think they had a chance if the Eagles lost, which probably wasn't going to happen because the Giants were playing the third string and second string players. But if the Giants pulled off a win, Cowboys could have won. I believe they could have been the number one seed in the NFC. So they were playing for something. Didn't look good here, but you know what? Like I said, in my opinion, for Dallas, it all comes down to Dak. If Dak plays like Dak, if Dak plays like he normally does, they're going to be in a very good position because Dallas is a very, very well-rounded team with I think a pretty ferocious defense. Very well-rounded team. But if Dak is playing like he's been playing this year, you know, ever since he's come back from injury, they're in a lot of trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. But I don't know what the problem is with Dak, because it's been a very uncharacteristic year for him. So, but like I said, if he can play like Dak, Dallas is in good position. All right, so and then you've got the nine. All right, before I go on to this last game. Oh, Joe is checking in. Drop the leash. Here we go, Giants. Here we go. That's right, Joey, baby. That's right. Hey, man, here we are. Remember, Joe and I did a Giants episode leading up to the beginning of the season. I said 10-7. Hey, we were 9-7-1, Joe, but I said 10-7. I was really damn close. And here we are, Joey. Look at us, Joe. Look at us. We're in the playoffs, baby. We're in the playoffs. I'm sure you already dressed us, but for the but by far the worst loss of the week is Green Bay losing at home to a Detroit team that had nothing to play for. You know what, Joe? What an awesome way that was to wrap up the season. Was that a really cool game to see? I love that Detroit Green Bay game, and I'm not crapping on Green Bay. I'm not crapping on Aaron Rodgers, but it was so cool to see this young and up and coming team in the Lions go to Green Bay of all places against Aaron Rodgers of all quarterbacks with everything on the line for Green Bay and for Detroit to go in and win and I kind of disagree, Joe. I think Detroit had a lot to play for, and that is like I think the what they were playing for Detroit, that is, was that this is a new era. We're not your parents' Lions. We're not your grandparents' Lions. We're not your great grandparents' Lions. We're today's Lions. We're a physical team. We're an athletic team. We are a star-studded team, and we're here to stay. And that's the message. I love Dan Campbell. That's like we're not. He said to his team, "Hey, if we're not going to the playoffs, neither are they," meaning the Packers, and they meant it. And that's what you're playing for. That's what you're playing for. That's when you're the Detroit Lions and you've been the team getting your shit kicked in for the past, I don't know, 20 presidential administrations, since basically World War II. That's kind of what you want to do. I had the Giants go all the way to the NFC title, losing to Brady. Derby, can you imagine that? You know what? Listen, Derby, God bless you. I don't know if you're serious or not. I'd be super psyched. Hey, man, if my team went to the NFC Championship game and lost to Brady, I can't complain. But can you imagine those two teams, of all the teams in the playoffs, those two teams going to the championship game? Then again, like I said earlier in the show, you can never count out Tom Brady, a Tom Brady-led team. You just can't count it out. People want to, people want to bury the guy. You can never count out a Tom Brady team. Remember the Vikings championship game from 2000? Let's have a repeat of that one. I do remember. That was probably the most fun game I've ever seen, because when you can win the NFC championship game and you can basically sit back by the end of the first quarter and just enjoy the rest of the game, that was probably the most fun game I've ever actually seen. Unbelievable. The Chargers versus Bills in the AFC. You know what? Bills, I see, man. Chargers, their defense hasn't been very good this year. I can't see the Chargers getting past the Bills, um, the Chiefs, or the Bengals. Or the Bengals. I just can't see them doing it this year. God bless their offense is finally healthy. The Chargers offense is finally healthy. Herbert, who's been healthy the whole season, as far as I know. Eckler, surprisingly healthy the entire season, and their two really good wide receivers, and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, finally healthy. They need that. The defense scares me. I just can't see the Chargers this year with the state of their defense beating those other three elite teams in the AFC. I just can't see it. Not getting that far. Not getting that far. I think they've got a ceiling in the playoffs, the Chargers. But Derby, I like it, man. I like it. And you know what? I like this even more. Giants and Brady Buccaneers. I like that even more, man. Man, if my Giants go to the NFC, me and Joe's the other Joe here at Tulsa Titles is Giants fan. If we go to the NFC Championship, oh my God, we can lose. It's totally cool. It's totally cool. Dan Campbell, Giants alum. That's right, Joe. Dan Campbell, Giants blood. There's Giants blood running through those Lions veins right now. That's what's going on. That's what I'm talking about, Joe. That's right. And I fully embrace the Lions. I've got some friends here in northeastern New Jersey, where I live, who are Lions fans, and we've been going back and forth, kind of supporting our two teams. um, this entire year. We've got no hate for each other. There's no animosity, no history between our two teams. And our two teams have sucked for the past 10 years for the most part. So again, I've got no hatred or dislike for the Packers at all. I respect that organization. I love the Packers fan base. And I know a lot of people don't like Aaron Rodgers. I respect the guy. I respect him as a football player. He's just a great football player. But it's just kind of cool to be seeing like this, turning of the worm here, the changing of the guard. And Detroit Lions, my God, if any organization, if any fan base deserves something like this turnaround that we're seeing in Detroit with Dan Campbell, led by Dan Campbell, it's the Detroit Lions. And they're doing it the right way. Listen, they're becoming like a star-studded, like a really really talented team. But for me, I still say this is the most important thing to me, besides being talented, which is important. The Lions are becoming a physical team for the first time. I'm 51 years old. First time in my lifetime, the Detroit Lions are becoming a physical team. Forever, they've tried to be like a track team, like just an athlete team, an athletic team. And no, they're becoming a physical team, and they resemble Dan Campbell. It's like a team of Dan Campbells. I love it. And Bills versus the Bucks, Super Bowl 57. Bills win it on a similar drive to Brady's first ring in 34. And considering history, the Bills lost to the Giants in 25. That's just poetry. That'd be a pretty cool ending, Derpy. That'd be a pretty cool ending to the season. I gotta say, that'd be pretty cool. Uh, but it's funny, man. I'm warning. It's Derpy. I've been warning people since the beginning of this episode. There's no way in hell I would bet on the Buccaneers to go to the Super Bowl this year, or even the NFC Championship game. But man, you just can't count them out. You just can't count them out. You can't until they're until you see what the Lions did to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Like I could never count out Aaron Rodgers or the Green Bay Packers. They almost made the playoffs. But until a team actually puts them down, like the Lions did, they went up to Green Bay and they basically slayed the evil witch in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Until a team actually does it, it's hard for me to bet against them. But Detroit, went up there, they took care of business. I wasn't surprised by it because I did think Detroit was the better team, but winning in Green Bay in January is a hard thing to do until you can actually prove that you can do it. And that's like I said, Brady and the Buccaneers. That's still the Buccaneers are a talented team. They've been injured the entire year. They've gotten more and more injured the entire the throughout the year, especially on the O line and on the defense. But man, you still got Brady. I know he has not looked good this year, but if he's going to find the magic, it's probably going to be in the playoffs. You got Brady. You still have a healthy wide receiving core. I just can't count them out. And how the Bills lost 25 too. Yeah, yep. Hey, listen, man, no complaints. I'm a Giants fan. That was Super Bowl 25 was phenomenal. I hear you, man. He just thinks it would be poetry. Yeah, listen, man. I like the Bills. They're cool, and I'm not a Bills fan. Obviously, I'm a Giants fan, but I've got a Bills. One of my good friends here in town is a big time Bills fan, and I told him a few years ago when we first started talking Bills football. I said, man, I love that Bills team from the early '90s, and there's a great series. It's one of the I think it's a 30-30 series, ESPN 30-30 series, and you'll find it on Disney Plus because they have Disney owns ESPN, so they've got the 30-30 series. I think it's a 30-30 series, but I think it's called The Falls of Buffalo, and they talk about those 4 seasons where Buffalo went to back to back to back to back Super Bowls. They lost all 4, as we know, but just for them to do that was incredible. Those Bills teams were super talented. They were awesome. I always respected those teams, those Buffalo Bills teams, for going to 4 Super Bowls in a row and you lose them, it's tough, but you won. Like no one else has done that. That's to go to 4 Super Bowls in a row is amazing. I love those Jim Kelly teams, Thurman Thomas, and those are really good teams, man. Really, really good teams. And the Marv Levy teams. He was a great head coach. I felt bad for him. I felt bad because that team was too talented on both sides of the ball. To not win one Super Bowl at that time, I did feel bad. I mean, I didn't want them beating my Giants, and that was their best opportunity to win a Super Bowl at that time. But I did feel bad for them because they were a really good team. I really like Mark Levy a lot, and that was a cool episode to watch. I think it's called the Falls or the Four Falls of Buffalo, something like that. Cool. I really like that. Yeah, it's Brady, man. He's a magician. He is a magic man, especially in the playoffs. Derpy, I'm with you. You know how good two shoes he's with the NFL, especially in the playoffs, because I'm a Steelers fan. I know the pain, and I thank you for beating them those 2 times. You're welcome, man. You are welcome. And as I was telling Moon Vibes, who checked in on the program earlier this episode, I've got nothing respect for the Steelers. I love I love that team, that front office, that fan base. I love the Steelers' history. And you know what, Derpy, we got a connection. We got the Rooney Mara connection. Our 2 owners, the families are married. We even have Rooney Mara, the actress, and her sister, Kate Mara. So we're like our families are like married, Derpy. We're like extended family here, Derpy. Pretty cool. Steelers fans, Giants fans. We got the Rooneys and the Maras. We're intermingled. We're family. We're like Derpy and I are like we're like cousins or whatever, like in-laws, like 3 times removed or something like that. And he thinks team is motivated now to do it. I agree with you. Hey, man, Bills can beat anyone. They're as good as any team. They're as good as any team in the NFL this year. And they do have that feeling, don't they, Jerky? They've had it since earlier this year where some years you get this, when they lost like they did against Kansas City last year, kind of had, at least, yeah, I think many of us had that feeling like Buffalo's going to be on a mission next year, man. When they lost to Kansas City in that wild shootout, uh, in the playoffs last year, I think we all kind of had this feeling that Buffalo is going to be on a mission, and they're a well-coached team, and they certainly look like it. They Buffalo had its shaky moments this season, but listen, you're not going to be dominant every game, But they've looked really good for the past few weeks, Buffalo. And listen, man, they're as good as anyone. They're right up there with Kansas City, Philadelphia. And I still say this though, Jerpy, don't forget about the defending AFC champion Bengals. That team has been as hot as anyone for like the past 8 weeks. But yeah, Buffalo has had they've had a feeling they've been giving off that sense of a team of destiny, pretty much since the beginning of the season. Yeah, there was a great documentary. I think it was called The Falls or the Four Falls of Buffalo. It was great. Joe always knows Nino Brown checking in, baby. Good to see you, Nino. Yeah, they've been motivated since last year, man. Yeah, Buffalo's been motivated since that playoff loss to the Chiefs. Vikings versus the Bills. Nino, is that your pick for the Super Bowl? I, you listen. I'm not picking the Vikings to go to the Super Bowl, but I don't like how people have been dismissive of the team either. They are a 13-4 team, 13-4 team. They do have Justin Jefferson. The defense hasn't been good, but they also have Hawkinson as well. Um, and Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. Vikings versus Bills. I assume that's your Super Bowl. There we go. So that's Nino's Super Bowl prediction. Vikings versus the Bills. Super Bowl pick. Called him before the season. Really? I don't remember that, Nino. I don't remember that. I don't remember who I picked before the season. I got to go back to one of my early episodes, see who I picked. I'm sure I had probably had Buffalo in there, and I don't know who else. I probably picked Buffalo and Dallas. I bet. And I don't know. I'm getting pretty close with Dallas. Dak is having a bad year, but like I said a few minutes ago, if he gets straightened out, if he could be Dak, of most normal seasons, Dallas is in good position. Yep. Derpy says he's hoping for that. He's hoping for Vikings and Buffalo. That'd be, you know what? And wouldn't that be cool? I just thought of it. You know what? Yeah, ask coach. Nino, I believe you. Nino, hey, everyone else who's watching right now, Nino knows he always listen, Joe knows, but Nino Brown is like he's like a Nino knows himself. He's kind of like a Joe knows cousin. Nino knows. And I'll always give Nino props for this. On the he was on the what's his name train in Seattle. Geno Smith. Nino was on the Geno Smith train this summer before the season even started. And I was like, what? Geno Smith, really? Nino was hot on Geno Smith before the season even started, and he wound up being right. Tampa Bay beats Dak. I wouldn't be shocked, man. And you know what? Especially if Dak is playing bad like he has this season, Dallas is, Dallas could be in trouble. That's a team. Even though Tampa Bay is really beat up, that's a playoff tested team. You got a lot of veterans there, and you have a healthy wide receiver core, and you got Tom Brady. And Tom Brady has played like crap this year, but he's still Tom Brady. But I know the NFL, it's going to be Bucks versus the Bills. But I'll tell you what. You know what? Nino's right. I'm not picking Minnesota to go to the Super Bowl. But think about this: Minnesota's 0-4 in Super Bowls, and Buffalo's 0-4 in Super Bowls. It, Both teams have never. They've been in four Super Bowls each, and neither team has ever won a Super Bowl. Minnesota versus Buffalo. That would be really cool. That is my giant. If my Giants can't make it, if my Giants can't make it, then a really cool second option would be Minnesota and Buffalo. Someone finally gets their first win, unless you get a tie. Yeah, man, Gino. Yep, Nino was right on Gino. He nailed it on Gino since this last summer. The Bungles are the Bungles, though. Hey, man, I've been hammering for the Bengals this entire episode. I'm not saying they're necessarily going all the way Super Bowl, back to the Super Bowl, but I would not be surprised. Everyone's talking about Buffalo. Everyone's talking about Kansas City. Understandably so. The Bengals are the defending AFC champions. They started off slow this year. They started off shaky. They've been like as hot as anyone, if not hotter, for like the past 8 weeks. Cincinnati is coming together really, really well. Does Daniel Dimes get a W? We'll see, man. We'll see. I think he's got a chance. I think the Giants have a chance. Listen, I was saying earlier this episode, Giants fans are getting really, really cocky. Me myself, you know, if I were a betting man and just straight up, I'd bet on Minnesota to win at home. But I give the Giants a fighting chance, more than a fighting chance. I think they have a fair chance to win, to pull an upset over in Minnesota. But man, Nino, I'm just happy with Daniel Jones' performance this year. I really, really am. How many years a new contract for Dimes for the playoff win? I don't know. But for me, it doesn't really whether he even if he loses in this game, he should be getting the extension. And in regard to the contract, my response is this, because a lot of people are, just on Twitter like throwing numbers out there. Would you be okay with this? Would you be okay with that? I'd say show me the contract, and I'll tell you how I feel about it. But I've been in Daniel Jones' bunker here in Jonestown, for the past few years. I love that guy. I love the season this guy is having. I'm a believer in the dude. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid since pretty much from day one. Since day one, I love the guy. I want him here for a long, long time. He is the quarterback for this team. All right, I do like to pick up James Washington, because he's really hasn't had the opportunity to where he's been at. Yeah, I hear you. I like to pick up. I don't know if that's really if he's going to be used in these playoffs. I don't know because he's got to learn the offense somewhat. So I found it interesting that they picked up James Washington. I found it interesting that the Giants are still playing the waiver wires. I do. Um, and Derpy says, and you really don't have a number one. Are you talking about us? Oh my God, we don't have a number one. We don't have a number two either. Really, listen, I'm really happy with how Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James. I always want to call him Rick James, but Richie James. I love how they've been playing. But even at the level they've been playing, certainly neither are number one. And ideally, I'd say in a really good wide receiving team, neither of them are number two. They should really be number three options as wide receivers. But listen, it's been an efficient offense. Um, and I'm just really happy how they've been playing. Love the way Jones has been playing. I love Daniel Jones. I really do. And I love to see how everything's been coming together with this guy. Uh, Listen, I think I think he's the right quarterback for the Giants. I want to see him around for a long, long time. And Nino, regarding the contract, show me the numbers, show me the years, and I'll tell you how I feel about it. But listen, I love the guy, and I'll take him over the vast majority of quarterbacks in the NFL, at least for my Giants. At least for my Giants. Derpy says, I think Washington could be number two in your offense scheme, though he really has great opportunity at the Giants. Yeah, you know what? Derpy, he could be. He could actually wind up being like the most talented wide receiver on the Giants team, even right now, possibly. The thing is that we're entering the playoffs. Like Jones and like Hodgins and Richie James and even Slayton, like these are the most talented wide receivers in the world, obviously. But the thing is that the Giants offense has gotten more and more efficient. It's not they're like a number 18 offense. This isn't a high power offense. It's just not going to be. But they've been very efficient when they get into the red zone in terms of scoring touchdowns. That's their key thing that and they've gotten more and more so as the season's gone along because Jones has been clicking with these wide receivers, and it takes time. It takes some time to do that. So, but he's looked really good, commanding the offense for the past few weeks at least because he's got the same guys playing. It's important, and he's never gotten that throughout his tenure with the Giants. A lot of times, like even when he had some decent names on paper, they're injured, or the offensive line's injured, or just everything else is going wrong. And I'm not Daniel Jones wasn't blameless. I'm not saying that, but anyway, long story. But listen, Washington I think is talented. I'm glad they got him. Definitely better than some of the guys they have. And but listen, we're entering playoff time. He's been clicking with his wide receivers. They're comfortable with each other. But listen, I trust this coaching staff to if they want to use Washington, I trust them to do the right thing and put Washington in when he's ready. When he's ready. So it could be cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, we need a receiver in the draft. And Derpy, honestly, I am not crazy about this wide receiver draft. So I'd be calling Arizona to check on DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not going to overpay for the dude. If someone else wants to give like multiple first round picks, they could do that. I may be willing to give him one first round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. He is older, and it's going to cost a lot of money. But I wouldn't be crazy about really where the Giants are picking in the 20s, probably somewhere in the 20s this year when it's all said and done in 2023. Any of the wide receivers that are going to be available, like I don't know. Maybe I would just rather give up the first round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, just one first round pick. But there's really like I'm not crazy about this wide receiver class coming out in 2023. Anyway, let me wrap up here my week eight. Let me wrap up my week eight recap. Okay, so what we just talked about. The Lions are 9-8. They defeated the 8-9 Packers 20-16. They go into Green Bay. They go to the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field in January. They take down Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers when it matters. Because the Packers were win and in, and then the upstart Lions march into town. The guys who always got their asses kicked for the past 50 years by either the Packers or the Bears or the Vikings. The Lions have never been good consistently. They'll have like one good year, maybe two good years in a row if they're lucky, pretty good. Maybe they'll make a wild card game, and that's pretty much it. The Lions are as the Lions are becoming as talented as any team out there in the NFL, considering especially how young they are. But they've got man, we haven't even seen Jamison Williams in full bloom yet. I loved Amon-Ra St. Brown when he was drafted uh, two drafts ago. This offense is turning into something really, really scary. We haven't even seen this year that last year's last draft classes um, in 2022, the Detroit Lions wide receiver one that they took in the first round, Jamison Williams. He was recovering from injury for most of the year. Wait till next year. Wait till next year with a full year of Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, and Jamal Williams and Goff. And Detroit's been saying now. I don't know if it was their general manager today or their head coach. They're saying Goff is the quarterback for us, as he should be. Don't even bother. Don't even bother with a quarterback in the draft this year. Don't even bother. Goff has proven absolute command of this offense, and it's beautiful. He looks phenomenal. He looks great. And it makes me think, I was saying this like 2 weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, when I realized, like, man, Goff has arrived. Like, this is it. This dude is a really good quarterback. He looks great in this offense. It makes me think maybe Sean McVay is not the absolute genius that everyone thinks he is as an offensive play caller. Obviously, he's a good coach. Obviously, he's a good head coach of the Rams and a good play caller. And he won a Super Bowl, and his teams are always in the playoffs. But maybe he really messed up with Jared Goff, and maybe them not being on the same page. Maybe that wasn't just a Goff problem. Maybe that was a McVay problem. And so kudos to you, Jared Goff, for going to Detroit. You know, many people thought you were being sent to Siberia, and here you are, thriving. You've got a resurgency in your career. You're surrounded by young talent, a really good young up and coming team on both sides of the ball. And they love you, man. They love you. And you have a fan base that I assume loves you. Hey, if I were a Detroit Lions fan, I would want to go near another quarterback. I'd want you. And I assume the contract, I think Goff, if I recall correctly, is making like $35 million a year. And for the performance he put on this year, $35 million a year is a steal. And I would not be looking to draft another quarterback. No way. No way. So right now, that looks like a marriage made in heaven. The Lions game, man, what a great game that was. That was a great final game of the season. So much on the line here. The Lions could have very well went into Green Bay and ended an era. They could have ended an era. Think about this. Green Bay Packers fans, and I'm not mocking you guys. I'm not, like I said, I'm not hating your team. I don't hate your team. I don't hate Aaron Rodgers. I don't hate you. I just wanted to give you a thought exercise. Think about this. You've had like at least two generations of Packers fans that have no idea what it's like not to have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback at the helm. For the past 30 years, going back to like 1992, you've had either Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers. And that automatically gave you a chance in every single game that you went into, as long as you had those quarterbacks, as well as receivers too. Every good quarterback needs weapons as well. But even if you had a bad defense, even if you had a bad run offense, even if you had mediocre coaching, as long as you had Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers and quality wide receivers, don't get me wrong, you had a chance in every single game, every single Sunday, you had a chance. If the Rodgers era is over and if Jordan Love, I'm not crapping on Jordan Love. I actually kind of like the Jordan Love pick a few years ago. I got it. I got it. I'm like, you know what? Hey man, you got it. You have a quarterback who you know is available and you did not have to move up to get and you know that you have belief in. I didn't blame them. It was like same thing when they drafted Aaron Rodgers back in like 2007, I think, or 2006. I guess maybe or maybe 2005. I didn't blame them at all. And I think Jordan Love could wind up being maybe another franchise quarterback. But if he's not, if he just winds up being kind of like you know, just a, pretty good or just pedestrian, starting quarterback, welcome to the real world. Welcome to the real world, Green Bay, because it's been 30 years since you've had to deal with that. And God bless you, because it's reality. That is reality. However, I'm not dismissing Jordan Love. The guy could wind up being a franchise quarterback. He could wind up being really good. I liked his potential coming out of college. Um, and when they made the pick, I kind of got it. I'm like, dude, this quarterback, you didn't have to trade up to get this guy. He kind of fell into your lap. You obviously liked him. And Aaron Rodgers was getting older already a few years ago. He was getting up there. I don't blame you, but can you imagine if he actually winds up being a franchise quarterback and they've got Jordan Love for like the next like 12 years? It's going to be like three generations. It's going to be like 45 years of great quarterbacks at Green Bay. That's oh my god, that would be amazing for Green Bay Packers fans. However, like I said, if the Aaron Rodgers era is over and Jordan Love is not that guy, you might find another. Maybe you will find that guy another year or two. Maybe you'll find another Hall of Fame caliber, elite quarterback in a year or two. I don't know, but if he's gone next year, if Aaron Rodgers is gone and Jordan Love is not that quarterback, um, you're gonna have the first taste of reality since George H.W. Bush was president. or at least since Bill Clinton was president. It's been 30 years since you've had to really deal with reality. I'll tell you, it's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens in Green Bay, guys. But anyway, that's it for the Week 18 games. I just want to say, Detroit, I'm really sorry that Detroit didn't make it in the playoffs. They deserve to be there. They deserved, I think, to be there over Seattle. And that's no knock against Seattle. Seattle had a really great team. I think Seattle had the best draft class in 2022, and they deserve to be in the playoffs. I think the Lions deserve to be there over my Giants. I love my Giants season. I'm really really proud of the team. I don't think this the Giants' 9-7-1 record was a fluke. I don't think it was a fluke at all. But I think the most talented team of those three teams were the Lions, and they deserve to be in the playoffs. And I'm sorry that they're not there. I don't want it to happen at the expense of my Giants. It should have happened at the expense of Seattle. But I'm joking around. But seriously, I am sorry the Lions aren't there because that's a team kind of like the 49ers that no one wants to mess with. Nobody wants to mess with the Lions. And I love that, man. I love that about the Lions. This is a team that used to get pushed around all the time. This team's like, nah, we're not our parents' Lions. We're a new generation of Lions. We're not laying down to anyone, and I love that. I love that. I love that about these new Lions. Dan Campbell effect. Dan Campbell effect. All right, let's do the wild card picks, everybody. Before we do, we got 7 comments. All right, the chat is pumping, baby. Let's see over here. Okay, Derpy. I mean, I'd give you Deontay for your draft pick, but from what I saw, we may or may not need more than likely to trade him this offseason. I wouldn't give a first round pick for Deontay Johnson, Derpy, and I mean no disrespect. I think Deontay Johnson's a good wide receiver. I wouldn't give her number one for him. I wouldn't give her number one. You want to do a number 2 pick? I'd think about that. Number 2 picks are very valuable. I'm not that high on. I like Deontay Johnson. He's a good quality NFL quarterback, wide receiver. Excuse me, wide receiver. But I think ideally he's a number 2 wide receiver, which is good for you because Pickens is got the higher ceiling, I believe, to be a wide receiver one. So you'd be set with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. You'd be set with your one in your two. You didn't need Claypool, but you'd be set with 1 and 2 with Perkins as your one and Deontay Johnson as your number 2. I couldn't give up a first round pick for him. I couldn't. Um, Packers need to move on from Rodgers. I agree, man. I agree, and I don't hate the guy. He is one of the best quarterbacks in history. But I agree, man. Even if I were a Packers fan, I'd be like, you know what, man? Let's turn the page. But if I'm a Packers fan, I'd also be scared shitless, Derpy, because like I was just saying, they haven't had a non-elite quarterback in over 30 years. And if Jordan Love doesn't wind up being that quality quarterback, it's going to be a reality they are not used to. The fans, that is. Super Bowl 45 was a fluke because Rashad Mendenhall fumbled it, and gave them the opportunity to win it. Yeah, it happens, man. It happens. The Lions need defense. They are set for offense for the future. I agree. And you know what, Derpy too, though, with the defense, the Lions defense, it was holes all over the place. It looked like crap. The Lions defense was why the Lions were losing games in the beginning of the season, losing games that they should have won. They got off to like a 1-6 start or something like that. The offense was hot from the beginning of the season. The defense was what was killing them. The defense has got a lot better as the season went on. The Lions defense at the end of the season is much better than what they started with. If I agree with you, and I think most people would agree with you, Jerpy, that the Lions should probably focus on building up the defense more. That the offense looks like it's set. Then again, you never know who's going to fall into your lap. And if you got some super stud, I don't care if it's another wide receiver or you know what, it's always good to add to the offensive line too. It always helps. If some like stud offensive line falls to you in the first round, don't be afraid to take him too, because you got to keep that offensive line good. You got to keep it physical and strong, physical, and talented. But I hear you, man. Ideally, if I'm the Lions, fan, GM, coach, I want to be adding to the defense. But that Lions defense has talent, and it got better, much better as the season went along. Look at my comment. Look at my comments, please. Oh, hear you, man. I'm sorry. I had to take a break from comments there. Um, can you look at my comments before you go? Oh, I'm not going anywhere just yet, actually. I'm sorry, Derpy. Derpy said, I'd say they need a legit linebacker and maybe some secondary fills. I agree with you. I hope they don't give up on Jeff Okuda yet. I don't. I still believe in that guy. And Derpy, I do have to take. I'm not gonna let any comments go unread, but I do need to go back to doing my picks now. But I will go back to the comments. I'm not ignoring comments. I saw the comments, but I needed to get through the last few games that I had to recap for Week 18. And he's talking about the lines, and he says maybe one more defensive lineman to go with Hutchinson. Yeah, you can never have enough of that. And don't be surprised. Remember, Detroit's got two first round picks, and at least one of them is really high because it's from the Rams. I think they may have like pick number 5 or pick number 7, something like that, because they've got the Ram. I think they've got the Rams 2023 first round pick, and they could very well go defensive lineman. And you could see, um, I could see them go for another stud defensive lineman. I could see it. I could see it. That'd be pretty cool. And Hutchinson's looking like a beast. Okay, right now I got to do my picks for the wild card games. Derpy, I'm not ignoring any comments. Go ahead, comment. I will catch up to the comments in a little bit. I just got to get through this over here. Okay, so my Week 18 results. I was 10-6 with the spread, and I was 12-4 straight up. These are my picks for Week 18 that we just went over. I was 10-6 with the spread. I was 12-4 straight up for the season. My picks with the spread, I was 135, 127, and 6. I was a little over 500. Um, for the season, my results straight up, I was 168, 101, and 2. I think I kicked ass there straight up. With the spread, I was only slightly over 500 for the regular season, but straight up, I kicked ass. Okay, so Seahawks at the 49ers. The 49ers are giving 10 points. Oh, by the way, these spreads are from ESPN.com. These spreads for the wild card games. I got these from ESPN.com as of last night, around 24 hours ago. Seahawks at the 49ers. The 49ers are giving 10 points. I'll take the 49ers giving the points to the 49ers straight up. Early in the season, I would have thought this would be a closer game because the Seahawks are playing really, really well and the 49ers were looking kind of shaky. The 49ers looking super dominant right now. The game's in San Francisco. I love the future for Seattle. They're totally heading in the right direction, but playing in San Francisco against that defense is going to be really tough. So I'll go with the 49ers giving the 10 points and the 49ers straight up. Chargers at the Jaguars. This is a tough one, man. I'm gonna the Jaguars are giving 1 point. I'll take the Chargers getting the point and the Chargers straight up. That's gonna be a good game, and I'm really looking forward to watching that game. I love the Jaguars rebuild. I love the direction of the Jaguars team. They've got a really good head coach who knows what he's doing. They've got talent on both sides of the ball, but especially Trevor Lawrence, their franchise elite quarterback. I'm excited to see these two young quarterbacks go at it, but I think the Chargers, even though I'm not, the Chargers defense has been a problem, as in not good, the entire season. I think the Chargers offense will be too much for the Jaguars, um, and yeah, so I'm gonna go with I think this is gonna be a good game, but I'm gonna go with the Chargers getting the 1 point and the Chargers straight up. Dolphins at the Bills. Bills are giving 9.5 points. Honestly, I'm surprised that the spread is only 9.5 points. It's kind of surprising given that Tua is probably not starting. He's probably not playing. Um, Listen, if Bridgewater's playing for the Dolphins as a starting QB, okay, 9.5 points. Actually, I don't think this game's gonna be close. I think the Bills are gonna take care of business. It's not gonna be close. Um, they're gonna want to storm through the playoffs. They're gonna want to send a message. Dolphins playing in Buffalo in January. It's something you gotta. That's not easy. So I'll go with the Bills, giving the points and the Bills straight up, especially since Tua is not going to be around. But even if Tua was around, I'm not giving Miami much of a chance this year against Buffalo in January. So again, I'm going with the Bills, giving the 9.5 points and the Bills straight up. Okay, Giants and the Vikings. The Vikings are giving 3 points. I think that's a good fair. I think that's a good point spread. I'm taking the Vikings, giving the points and the Vikings straight up. Listen, I think my team, the Giants, have a very fair chance to win this game. I wouldn't be shocked if they win, but I wouldn't bet on it either. Listen, the Giants played well against the Vikings a few weeks ago, but people got to remember too, the Vikings, not the Vikings, the Giants. had to score a touchdown and the 2-point conversion late in the game to tie it up. I realize the Vikings won the game on a 61-yard field goal as time ran out, but the Giants were behind in that entire game, and they had to score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion late in the game just to tie it up. So I think the Giants' offense has actually gotten better and better and better over the past few weeks, ever since they've started throwing the ball more on. They let Daniel Jones throw the ball more on first down, which has actually been opening things up for the run for Saquon Barkley because things were quiet in the run game there for a while. They're actually throwing more often on first down, which I think is opening things up for helping to open things up for Saquon. So I feel better about the Giants' offense now, and Daniel Jones seems to be just in a really good place with his wide receivers. They're not great wide receivers, but they seem to be on the same page. And I like that. But listen, the Giants defense will have to deal with Justin Jefferson. I think Hawkinson is going to be a big time problem for them. And there's also Dalvin Cook and the other guy, the other running back they have. So Giants run defense has been horrible the entire year. It's not so much the D line, it's the linebackers have been horrible. The second level has been horrible against the run. About they've been horrible in terms of playing the gaps. If Minnesota wants to, I think Minnesota's got multiple ways to win this game. Um, they could do it in the running game if they want to. Like I said, Giants run defense has been horrible, and then we got Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson. Those are two problems. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is if you can hold that guy to like 70 yards and a touchdown, I'll be happy. But Hawkinson's going to be a problem too for them. So I think the Giants have a chance, though. I love the way the Giants are playing. It looks like they're getting healthy. It looks like they've got Ojulari back for this game. McKinney's back. Thank God he's been back for like the past 2 weeks. They needed him. Hopefully, knock on wood, Adoree Jackson's back for the first time like in 6 weeks. Hopefully, he's playing. Hopefully, we'll see. But the offensive line's been playing better for the Giants too. Um, Daniel Jones with wide receivers, they're really on the same page. So the talent ceiling there is limited. But at least they're like really been on the same page. And Minnesota's defense is horrible. So man, it's like it should be a good game. I would not be surprised at all if the Giants won at all. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I'll be super psyched. But if I were betting, and I have to bet on the Vikings. So I'll take the Vikings giving the 3 points. I'll take the Vikings straight up. Ravens at the Bengals. Ravens at the Bengals. Bengals are giving 7.5 points. Man, if Lamar Jackson's not playing, I've got no problem giving 7.5 points. I'll take the Bengals giving the points and the Bengals straight up. If Lamar Jackson's not playing, Bengals are going to romp. They've been like the hottest team in football for like the past 8 weeks. Ravens are really not looking all that great. And kudos to Roquan Smith. I love that guy. I was hoping the Giants would be able to get him as a free agent this upcoming year. I love because they need a middle linebacker. They need a Mike big time. And I would have loved Roquan Smith. But kudos to him. He goes to a team that knows how to do defense. I think he negotiated his own contract. He's now the highest paid linebacker in the history of the game. I think it's 5 years, $100 million. So kudos to Roquan Smith, and he's gonna have a fun time in Baltimore. They do defense right in Baltimore. But man, if Lamar Jackson's not playing, I'm easily taking the Bengals, giving 7.5 points, and the Bengals straight up. I'll tell you something else too. If Lamar is playing, I'm still taking the Bengals. I'm still taking the Bengals. I don't know about 7.5 points, but I'm still taking the Bengals. Cowboys at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are giving 2.5 points. That's crazy. I gotta check this. Hang on a second. I gotta double check that. Did I get messed? How are the Buccaneers favored to win? Did I mess that up? That's crazy. Oh, okay, okay. I thank God I checked. Thank God I checked. Okay, I'm sorry. Buccaneers are getting 2.5 points. I'm like, there's no way. I know Dak hasn't been playing well, but there's no way. Okay, so Cowboys and Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are getting 2.5 points at home. Oh man. All right, I'll tell you what. Hmm. Only because Dak has not been playing like Dak this year so far. Like I said earlier, if somehow right now in time for the play, just in time for the playoffs, if Dak can play like Dak, I think Dallas has the ability to win it all this year. This game's in Tampa Bay. It is Tom Brady. He's got weapons. It's been a bad year for Buccaneers, but man, Tampa getting 2.5 points in Tampa with Tom Brady and a lot of pride on the line. I'll tell you what, I'll take the Bucks getting the points. I'll take the Cowboys straight up. I'll take it up as a close game. I'll split the baby here. I'll go with the Buccaneers getting the points at home, and I'll take the Cowboys straight up to win a close game. I knew I must have had that wrong. So okay, so Dallas is giving the 2.5 points. All right, cool. So I'll stick with that. Okay, I'll go with the Bucks getting the points, but the Cowboys straight up in a close game. It is Tom Brady. They are playing at home. This team does have pride. The defense is banged up. Their offensive line is banged up, but he still has Evans and Godwin, and he's got what Leonard Fournette and Rashad White is too. So, but that could be ugly, man. Cowboys could tear up. They could end Brady's career. They could end Brady. That defense, Micah Parsons could end Brady's life. You might see a tombstone on that field tomorrow or that field this weekend for Tom Brady. Um, it could get ugly, man. That could be an ugly, ugly game. Okay. Oh, and that's it. I guess that's that. This is from. Let me delete that. Nah, forget that. All right, guys. So Cowboys and Buccaneers, and that game is Monday night. Let me see something real quick. Yeah, that Cowboys Buccaneers game is the last wild card game of the week, and that's Monday night. And why are they playing a game on Monday night? I don't like that at all. But anyway, those are my wild card picks, everyone. It's been real. Let me see. Let me get rid of this over here. Okay, Derpy, I'm back to the comments. Let's see. Yep, yep, we went over that one. Okay, he says if that's the case, you need to go get Nolan Smith. It's music to my ears, man. Music to my ears. Nolan Smith, absolutely. Nino Brown and I, we love. I mean, basically everyone who follows the draft, we all love. You gotta love Nolan Smith. That dude is a dog, and he's a leader. And I love me some Nolan Smith. I really do. I'd love for the Giants to get Nolan Smith. I don't know if you're talking about Lions or man, my team. We need a Mike. We need a middle linebacker big time. I would love Nolan Smith. The dude is a dog, and he's a leader. I'd love that. I think he'd fit in nicely with my New York Giants. We need it big time because the DL is actually fairly deep this year for the draft. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. That is one area where this draft is deep. This draft class, in my opinion, is not the does not have the depth and it doesn't have the talent, the depth of the draft class of 21 and 22. Those were two of the deepest draft classes I've ever seen in my life. And they were very, very deep, pretty much like every position for the most part. That's not really this draft class in 2023. I'm not crazy about the wide receiver class, to be honest. I think there's talent. Just it's not what it was in 2021 and 22. Offensive line, I think, is not very good in terms of I'm not crazy about it. You got like two offensive linemen that I like a lot, like for the early first round, Skoronski and Paris Johnson. After that, there's a big drop off. That's very different from the previous two draft classes, which were very deep in offensive line talent. But defensive line, this is a very good draft for the defensive line. So it's gonna be cool, especially the interior actually. And people get bored. The defensive tackles, nose tackles are usually like the unsexiest picks pretty much in the draft, except for maybe a center. But there's some really good ones in this draft, and it's needed. Those guys are needed, man. You want a good middle of the line on defense. So, but anyway, Derpy, man, you've been great, man. Thanks for hopping in. Really appreciate it. The comments were pumping today, baby. Here at Joe Knows. Yeah, as we get into the wild card games. Oh yeah, baby, I'm excited. So anyway, I've been going on for almost 2 hours. This is crazy, but that's because of you, the great host, my millions of fans out there from across the world. Check it in, giving comments here. I love it here at Joe Knows. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Anyway, so looking forward to this weekend. I want all of you to enjoy your wild card weekend. Before I go, just a reminder, there's like 15 of us here at Toss the Titles. Here are the Twitter handles. If you can give us a follow, I'd greatly, really appreciate it. And I'd give you plenty of hugs and kisses. Virtual, not real, but virtual. And then please, friendly reminder, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review. We really appreciate it. All of that type of stuff. Hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, Give us a 5-star Apple review. It all helps us grow our product. We really appreciate it. It's our brand. So we really appreciate it. Guys, I'm out of here. Enjoy your wild card weekend, and I will see you next Wednesday night. Take care, all.